Seeing how it's the New Year's, it's only right I give you guys my New Year's resolutions for the New York Knicks. You guys know who it is, Queens Forever, Mr. Nick Energy, Mr. All the Things, Dariel in the building. So, like I said, in the beginning of the New Year's, everybody wants to have resolutions. Some people want to lose weight. Some people want to eat healthier. Some people want to be more active, whatever the case may be. So it's only right that I kind of make a New Year's resolutions for the Knicks, what they should be asking for. Some of you guys might agree with it. Some of you guys might not. But let's get right into it. The first one, I'm going to keep it nice and brief because I can admit when I've been going a little too hard on someone, and yeah, you guys guessed it. The first one is Precious Achiuwa, bye. So for this one, more specific, I think the New Year's resolutions for the Knicks, it should be to try and get rid of Precious Achiuwa. He has a very nice contract right now that we can work with. He just signed in the offseason 1 year, I believe it was $6 million. So his contract is definitely movable, but the reason why I have this as part of the New York Knicks resolutions, or why it should be, is like I said, like I just said, I'm gonna keep it brief, I'm gonna keep it light, and I'm gonna move on because you guys know how I feel about Precious, and I don't want to harp on it. So I just don't think Precious being our main big man coming off the bench is the answer. And Mitchell Robinson, once he comes back, and hopefully he's able to remain healthy, once he comes back, Mitch is gonna be put in the starting five, and then Cass more than likely gonna move over to the 4. So we still have a big coming off the bench that me personally, I don't trust. I don't wholeheartedly trust, and I don't think he's going to be the answer for us. So I'm going to keep it at that. I'm not going to dive into really hard of how I don't like Precious Achiuwa and how I think some of you guys riding for Precious Achiuwa and having a Precious Achiuwa agenda is crazy. But I'm going to keep it at that. So now, the next resolution that I have for the Knicks is, in my opinion, for our second best player on the team, Karl-Anthony Towns, to have a good playoff season. And I have it called Bodega Cat Make or Break Playoff Run. Now, ever since the trade happened, I'm still not on the bandwagon. I'm still not 100% sure that this was the right trade. I'm not sure if this was the right move. All of these numbers that he's putting up in the regular season, it's cute. I've said that in many videos before. It's not a breakout season because we knew the talent that Cat possesses. We knew the talent, we knew the skills. In Minnesota, it was very up and down. It was a roller coaster type of a career in Minnesota because as soon as he got there, he was proclaimed as the best player on the team, which avidly so. Like the skills and talent that he possesses, it should make him the best player on any team that he's on. And it just hasn't panned out as much. So I'm still not on the bandwagon, and I'm still not saying that this was the right trade. I'm still not saying that this was a great trade. But at the same time, I'm not going to negate the way he's been playing. This guy has been playing like a legitimate, bona fide all-star. And there's no question in my mind that he will make it to the all-star game alongside Jalen Brunson. But as far as Cat specifically, I'm gonna keep it real. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I am not gonna give his praise until he does this in the playoffs. Everything he's doing in the regular season, 44-point games, all that he's doing is cute, man, but it's regular season. Regular season doesn't mean anything until you get to the playoffs. Of course, I like seeing him succeed. I like seeing him change the narrative around his name because prior to coming to the Knicks, one of the narratives is that he's type soft, and I think he's completely changed that narrative around him. He's come to one of the biggest cities in the country, the biggest markets in the world, and he's actually playing well. There aren't a lot of questions regarding his physicality, his softness, his skills, his talent. Like the way he's been playing, he has thoroughly surprised me with what he's been able to do so far. But the fact remains, we don't know how he's going to show up in the playoffs, and we're going to see it this year. But to dive a little deeper as far as Cat's playoff run, I looked up his numbers, and for his career, he's averaging 18.8, which is basically 19. So he's averaging 19 points, 10 rebounds, and 2.5 assists, and he's played 32 games in the playoffs. Now, I even broke that even further, and the first time that he was in the playoffs was in the 2017-2018 season where he went up against the Houston Rockets, and they lost in 5 games. Now, for those games, I looked it up, and in the first game of the series, my man had 8 points. He had 12 rebounds. He was 3 of 9 from the floor, 0 of 2 from three-point line. The second game of the series, they lost the first 2 games of the series. In the second game of the series, my man had 5 points, 10 rebounds, 2 of 9 from the field, 1 of 3 from three-point line. In Game 3, which is the only game that they won in that series against the Houston Rockets, 18 points, 16 rebounds, 5 of 13 from the floor, 1 of 2 from three-point line. Game 4, he had 22 and 15, 9 of 15 from the floor, 0 of 2 from three-point line. And in the final game, he had 23 points and 14 rebounds, 9 of 14 from the floor, 1 of 2 from three-point line. So looking at these numbers, the biggest thing that pops out to me is the amount of three-pointers that he took. Like the highest amount was 3, and he only had that in one game. And for the rest of the games in the series, he had 2 3-pointers. So that's definitely interesting. Now these numbers that I'm throwing at you is the 2017-2018 season. So it was his first time in the playoffs, and if you remember, the very first 2 games of this series, he had 8 points and 12 rebounds. He had 5 points and 10 rebounds. Not a good start at all. Jimmy Butler was on that team, I believe. So Jimmy Butler was kind of the best player on the team, and this was Cat's very first experience being in the playoffs. So this was a learning curve for Cat, and I can't really go that far back as far as like if I remember Cat having some really bad basketball IQ plays, if he just fouling outside way away from the rim like he's normally doing. So this being Cat's very first appearance in the playoffs, I can't hold it too much because first it was a good minute ago, 2018. I just remember the outcome. I don't really remember how Cat played, but I'm just giving you numbers just to give a little bit of context. Now, the second time he goes into the playoffs, the second time is in the 2001-2022 season where they go up against the Memphis Grizzlies, and that series goes 6 games, which they lose. Now, this is where I really remember Cat just really, their narrative around his name really starting to grow as far as like a basketball IQ, as far as like the foul trouble that he has. This is where I feel like it's really starting to grow. So they lose that series, and they lose that series in 6 games, I believe. But now, if we go into the numbers, the first game against Memphis, they win, and he has a 29 and 13 game, 11 of 18 from the floor, 2 of 5 from three-point line. The second game, they lose. He has a 15 and 11 game, 4 of 7 from the field, 0 of 1 from three-point line. The third game, he has an 8 and 5 game, 3 of 4 from the field, 0 of 1 from three-point line. The fourth game, he has a 33 and 14. He has 8 of 17 from the field, 3 of 5 from the three-point line. In the fifth game, he had 28 points, 12 rebounds, 7 of 15 from the floor, 5 of 7 from three-point line. And then in the last game, which they lost, he had 18 and 10, 6 of 19 from the floor, 0 of 3 from three-point line. So this being his second outing in the playoffs is definitely a better example compared to his first time going against the Houston Rockets. He had good games. For the first game, he had a 29 and 13 game. He had a 33 and 14 game. He had a 28 and 12 game. So I do remember this series because there were moments in this series where Cat was really standing out. There was moments in this series. There was a moment where he had a poster on somebody, and I just loved the aggressiveness and seeing that out of Cat. That really stuck out to me. But I remember this series because this is where the narrative changed around his name, where the basketball IQ, where the foul trouble. This is where is Cat. Can Cat being the best player on your team, can he lead you to the championship? Can he lead you deep into the playoffs? I feel like this is where it started to change, and this is where the narrative around his name really started to pick up. But looking back at the numbers, again, there are other circumstances as well that I can't really pinpoint going back into that time. I don't remember if there was any injuries on the team that maybe put Cat at a bit of a disadvantage. I don't know, maybe other players fouled out. I could only go off of what I remember. And from what I remember, the biggest takeaway that I had from that series was, first of all, Memphis, I think that was the second time the Memphis Grizzlies being led by John Morant were in the playoffs. The first time they made it, they went up against Utah in the first round, and I believe they got swept. And I think John had like a 48, 50-point game in one of the games in that series. But the Memphis Grizzlies, this is being their second time in the playoffs and being able to move past the first round against Karl-Anthony Towns and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like, I know D'Angelo Russell was on that team, Cat was on that team, but it just felt like Cat had more experience, and it felt like Cat should have led his team past the Memphis Grizzlies. The Memphis Grizzlies were babies at that time, so that was a little bit of a detriment to Cat. But okay, neither here nor there. Now, after that playoff appearance, now we're moving on. to the Denver Nuggets, and that is in the 2022-2023 season, and they end up losing that series in 5 games. So the first game, he has 11 and 10. He's 5 of 15 from the floor. He's 1 of 7 from three-point line. The second game, he's 10 and 12, 3 of 12 from the field, 2 of 5 from three-point line. The third game, he's 27 and 7, 10 of 17 from the floor, 2 of 4 from three-point line. The fourth game, he has 17 points, 11 rebounds, 5 of 9 from the floor, and 0 of 2 from three-point line. And in the last game, which they lost, he had 26 points, 11 rebounds, 9 field goals made on 17 field goals attempted, and 1 of 6 from three-point line. So, Cat at this time, no, Rudy Gobert was on the team at that time. I do remember that. And I think Rudy Gobert, he might have got traded, was it midseason? There's just a lot of basketball knowledge that I have in my head, and sometimes it gets blurred. But losing in 5 games in the first round, now granted, he's going up against Jokic, who in my opinion is, aside from Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain, I don't count those two because of the eras and the level of competition and the level of athleticism and skills and talent. There's a lot that I put into these top 10, top 5 lists. So as far as big men of all time, I currently have Jokic in it, but that is excluding Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell. So if I'm excluding Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain, my top 5 of big men, I got Jokic, I got Shaq, I got Hakeem, I got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And that 5th player, I don't know exactly who it is. All I know is that Jokic is in the top 5, and I don't think it's a question. But Cat going up against Jokic is interesting because they had Rudy Gobert at the time. So if Rudy Gobert was guarding Jokic most of the time, then why wasn't Cat able to do what he does? Another thing that's popping out to me is in all these games, going all the way back to the very first playoff appearance with Karl Anthony Towns against the Houston Rockets and then the Memphis Grizzlies, and right now I'm talking about the Denver Nuggets. Like, there are games where he just has bad games, man. He has bad games. The first game of this series, he had 11 and 10. The second game, he had 10 points and 12 rebounds. Year prior to this, against the Memphis Grizzlies, like I said, he has bad games. He had a game where it was 8 points and 5 rebounds. It was 15 points and 11 rebounds. And then in the very first outing against the Houston Rockets, he had the very first game of that series, 8 points and 12 rebounds. Second game, 5 points and 10 rebounds. It's just too much of a roller coaster with Cat. He has good games, he has bad games, and then I'm giving you a perfect example as to why the narrative around Cat's name is what it is. Now, the most recent example I can give you is last season in the playoffs where they lost to the Dallas Mavericks in 5 in the Western Conference Finals. I should preface by they beat the reigning defending champions, the Denver Nuggets, in the Western Conference semifinals. And Cat was a reason. He was definitely a reason why they were able to advance. And beating the reigning champs, you gotta salute that. But now in the Western Conference Finals, losing in 5 in the first game, he had 16 points and 7 rebounds. In the second game, in the first game, 16 points, 7 rebounds. He was 6 of 20 from the floor. Sheesh. He was 2 of 9 from three-point line. Now, the second game of that series, he had 15 points, 7 rebounds, 4 of 16 from the floor. He was 1 of 5 from three-point line. In the third game, he had 14 points, 11 rebounds, 5 of 18 from the floor, and 0 of 8 from three-point line. And in the last 2 games of that series, he has 25 points, he has 5 rebounds, and he was 9 of 13 from the floor, 4 of 5 from three-point line. In the very last game of that series, he had 28 points and 12 rebounds, 9 of 20 from the field, 1 of 6 from three-point line. So, there it is, man. One of the biggest reasons I think that they weren't able to even make it competitive and it was a gentleman's sweep is the first 3 games of that series, Cat he didn't come to show up, man. And Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington, they really, kind of took Cat out of the series. And 16 and 7 in the first game, 15 and 7 in the second game, 14 and 11 in the third game. Those are not numbers that's going to get it done against the Dallas Mavericks, who Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, and they made that midseason trade for Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington, completely changing that team around. But I know that was a lot of information, but the numbers and all the numbers that I'm giving you, it goes into the whole point of this is Cat's the examples that I'm giving you that Cat has had in the playoffs. It's very it's up and down, man. there's credence to it. I'm giving you context as to why I'm but I have a question mark when it comes to Karl Anthony Towns. In all of his playoff series, like, there are games where he shows up and then there are games where he doesn't show up. And that's just something that we might have to be prepared for this upcoming playoff season. Like, he's having a really good regular season, but what's going to happen when the lights are on? What happens when the lights are on and it's time to perform? What happens when it's time to make a name for yourself? And the defensive schemes are drawn up where teams are able to focus on you for days on end. So, like, I'm just really, really, really gonna, like, chill on this praising Cat for the regular season, and we'll see what happens in the playoffs. Hopefully Cat proves me wrong, man, but I'm giving you the examples. I'm giving you facts. I'm giving you numbers right here, guys, as to why I have a little bit of resistance to Cat. Okay, and now for my final resolution for the New York Knicks, I have Mitchell Robinson is the prodigal son. I hate to be dramatic, but at the same time, this also, it gives me a little bit of hesitation because I hate to say it, guys, but Mitchell Robinson, I think he is going to be one of the biggest reasons if we're going to make it a really special season, at least getting to the NBA Finals, because even before this 2-game losing streak that we had, losing to the Oklahoma City Thunder and losing to the Chicago Bulls, before those 2 games, we were on a 8-9 game winning streak where Mikal Bridges is looking like he's being implemented into the offense. Cat is in an offensive groove. Jalen Brunson is on an offensive groove. OG Anunoby is proving why he's one of the better perimeter defenders in the league. Like, there are so many things that were clicking. Besides the bench productivity, because that's also going to be another big question, but besides the bench productivity, if everybody is playing the way they've been playing, everybody's in a groove, I'm looking at the rest of the Eastern Conference. Like, Cleveland Cavaliers, I'm not really worried about, even though I'm definitely paying attention to them. They still got to prove it to me. Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, they still got to prove to me that they can actually do what they're doing in the regular season in the playoffs. And up until now, it's the same thing. Like, the Cleveland Cavaliers have been a good regular season team, and then when the playoffs come, they don't show up. Now, the only difference this year is just the way they've been playing. Kenny Atkinson, salute to you, my guy, because what they did to you in the Brooklyn Nets was absolutely blasphemy. But you're definitely proving why you're one of the better coaches in the league. So shout out to you. But I got to see it in the playoffs. And again, being led by Donovan Mitchell, let's see if he's going to, once the playoffs comes, let's see if he doesn't turn into his usual Donovan Mitchell self, trying to be the best player but not able to lead a team. Let's see if the Cleveland Cavaliers, they continue this ball and body movement and to see being able to just, Donovan Mitchell being able to just include the rest of his teammates. Because if that happens, if they keep playing the way they're playing now in the regular season, in the playoffs, then it's definitely going to be a lot more competitive than I expected. But whatever. That's a different topic for another video. But what I'm saying is, if we have everybody playing the way we're playing, and then we have the addition of Mitchell Robinson and actually being able to have a healthy playoff run, we got wing defenders. We have Cat playing the 4, which is his natural position. He doesn't like playing the 5, the foul trouble and all that stuff, the wear and tear on your body going up at other bigs. Mitchell Robinson is going to be able to alleviate some of that pressure, being able to alleviate some of that foul trouble from Cat. So that's going to be an added bonus. I'm looking at the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm looking at the Boston Celtics. Like, if Mitchell Robinson comes back and is able to have a nice, healthy playoff run, we have the pieces to go up against these teams. In my opinion, I think Boston is the one that we should be keeping an eye on. And the Cleveland Cavaliers, in my opinion, I think they made it a case. They made a case for themselves to be taken seriously. But I think the Eastern Conference, you're going to have to go through Boston in order to get to the NBA Finals. Maybe we may not have to see the Cleveland Cavaliers, but I don't know. We'll see. But Mitchell Robinson, I think, is, like I said earlier, I think he's going to be the reason why we're going to have a really special year, or if we're going to have the same type of year we've been having, which is getting to the second round and then being eliminated in the second round. And man, that's a scary place to be, man, because Mitchell Robinson, as of late, he's not an injury-prone player. It's only been the last 2 seasons where he's been injury-prone. Prior to that, he's had good games played, and I've been through those numbers before. Hopefully, you guys checked out that video. But alongside Mitchell Robinson, the bench productivity is something that we're going to have to definitely get an answer for. And this video obviously is going to come out before the trade deadline. So I think February 6th is the trade deadline And I don't know, man. Maybe Mitchell Robinson's name has been in the trade rumors with the Knicks, but we got to see. We got to wait and see. If Mitchell Robinson is still with the Knicks past the trade deadline, then Leon Rose and Worldwide West, then it's pretty obvious. They like what they have, and they're waiting to see how Mitchell Robinson is going to be able to just implement himself into the Knicks team and being able to help Cat especially. But if the trade deadline comes and we actually make a move with Mitchell Robinson being in the trade, depending on the big man or the pieces that we get back, it could be for better, it could be for worse. But there's just a lot that still needs to be answered for the Knicks. But if Mitchell Robinson is able to give us at least one healthy playoff run, if he comes back in the beginning of February or at the end of this month, and then he just plays and he's fine, and then we're able to get to April without him having a hiccup and injuries, and he's able to go from the very first game of first round to however far we are, I like my chances, man. I really like my chances. I'm not saying we'll go to the NBA Finals. I'm not saying that we're going to go to Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals, but I like my chances of making it a competitive series and being able to challenge the Boston Celtics and maybe the Cleveland Cavaliers, depending on how serious they look towards the end of the season. But guys, I know this video was a lengthy one, but I want to say thank you so much for checking it out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. My New Year's resolutions for the Knicks is get rid of Precious. I'm going to keep it at that. 2, Cat to finally put the narrative to bed around his name in the playoffs. Make your name in the playoffs, baby. Make your fame in the playoffs. Put the narrative down, put it to bed, put it to rest. No more questioning Cat's ability to lead a team or be one of the better players on a team. And my final resolution is for Mitchell Robinson to be healthy and for Mitchell Robinson to complete this team so we can make it a very special year. But leave it in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. And of course, you guys know the drill. You know the vibes. It's Jalen Brunson for all the MVPs. The deuce is loose. Deuce, get healthy, my guy, because you're also an important part of this team. OG Anunoby for Defensive Player of the Year. Taj Gibson, we miss you, even though you're in Charlotte, but we miss you and we love you. And of course, you guys know what it is. It's Queens forever and ever. But until next time, I'll check you guys out in the next video. Peace.